The thumbnail of the video and the title is presented like this. Is Caitlin Clark the greatest of all time in college basketball? Clearly using Caitlin Clark's name to drive it, knowing that Caitlin Clark is the biggest needle mover. Not only is Caitlin Clark not even really on their list, she got removed from the
ESPN has once again shown disrespect towards Caitlin Clark, promoting their biased narratives. This pattern continues to undermine her achievements and perpetuates an unjust portrayal of her talent and character.
How can you be a top 5 player if you have not won a title?
Do you believe Larry Bird is an all-time great college player?
Yes.
Okay, well, he didn't win it, though.
Question.
They do leave Caitlin Clark out for the simple reason of not having a championship ring.
What about getting Iowa to the championship in back-to-back years? Is that not a...
Just when it seemed they couldn't go any lower, they excluded Clark from their list of the top 5 greatest women's college basketball players, further demonstrating their ongoing disrespect toward her legacy.
Only strike against Caitlin Clark is that she has not won a national championship. And that is the only thing that you can put against her.
Caitlin Clark took Iowa to back-to-back national championships.
Their reasoning? Clark lacks a championship. It's ironic that this same network celebrates male players as legends despite their title counts, yet suddenly insists that championships are the sole measure of success for Caitlin Clark. We won't be misled by their hypocrisy. In this video, we're diving deep into how ESPN is intentionally undermining Clark's legacy, showing favoritism, and reshaping history to suit their narrative. Stay with us as we reveal their double standards, 1 point at a time.
I just don't understand how you can see someone doing more with less in some aspects, but in this one, you can't see it, you can't give them credit for it.
ESPN's bias was glaringly evident when they conveniently left Caitlin Clark off their all-time top 5 list for women's college basketball. Their reasoning? She lacks a championship ring. However, this criterion has never been consistently applied to other players in their rankings. Numerous male and female athletes have been celebrated despite not winning titles. Yet, with Caitlin Clark, championships suddenly become the sole measure of greatness, highlighting the glaring double standard at play.
Clark is being used as like a ploy. You know, they got to put Caitlin Clark's name in the title. They got to make sure, you think you're watching something about Caitlin Clark, and then the rug is kind of pulled out when it's actually like, nah, she's not even in the top 5.
Consider Oscar Robertson and Pete Maravich, 2 of the most celebrated college players in history. Neither won a national championship, yet ESPN had no problem ranking them among the greatest of all time. In contrast, Caitlin Clark not only shattered records, but also led her team to consecutive national championship games. The hypocrisy is astounding. If championships are the ultimate benchmark, why is the legendary Larry Bird, another college basketball icon who also lacked a title, consistently ranked so highly? The reality is clear. ESPN is applying an entirely different standard to Caitlin Clark, revealing their blatant bias.
For somebody who went to a team like Iowa, who did not have championship experience, who did not have stars around her, and it is undeniable that there is one player that brought Iowa to the championship, that raised everybody else up around her, and their name is Caitlin Clark.
And it gets even worse. The manner in which ESPN executed this was not only disrespectful, but downright manipulative. They prominently featured Caitlin Clark's name and image to promote the segment, fully aware that she's the biggest star in women's basketball. This tactic baited viewers into believing she would be acknowledged alongside the legends, only for her to be completely omitted from the final list during the discussion. This wasn't merely a debate. It was a calculated strategy to capitalize on her popularity while refusing to recognize her significant contributions to the game. ESPN seems eager to exploit Clark's success for ratings, but when it comes time to bestow upon her the respect she has rightfully earned, they abruptly shift the goalposts. Even their own analysts admitted on air that leaving Clark off the list felt wrong, recognizing that she has dominated women's basketball in a way that few ever have.
Here's the thing. Love Caitlin. Love how she's transcended the game. I'm not going to go away from that. But in the open, we said, what makes a top 5 player? Winning. The only strike against Caitlin Clark is that she has not won a national championship. And that is the only thing that you can put against her, because the way she has dominated the record books when she was at Iowa was something you cannot duplicate. She's a three-time NCAA scoring leader and assist leader, a true point guard for the people, three-time All-American, two-time Naismith Player of the Year, two-time AP Player of the Year, all-time leading scorer. She broke the records of Kelsey Plum and Sabrina. Like, literally, there is nobody who has been such a front-facing name. It's through a direct reflection of her skill set, but how can you be a top 5 player if you have not won a title?
It's a great point, which is why I agree with.
Instead of acknowledging the truth, ESPN clung to their outdated argument, conveniently overlooking how other great players without championships have been treated. They are clearly shifting the goalposts to minimize Caitlin Clark's greatness and influence. Despite her tremendous contributions to women's basketball, they refuse to recognize her impact, which surpasses that of any player in recent memory.
Whenever anybody says, oh, she didn't win a championship, how do they respond back when you say, who else was on her team? What about getting Iowa to the championship in back-to-back years? Is that not?
But if championships were the sole measure of greatness, why do individual awards even exist? Basketball is inherently a team sport. No single player can win a title by themselves. Caitlin Clark didn't just excel at Iowa. She shattered records, elevated the entire game, and led a team with no prior championship legacy to back-to-back national title appearances. This achievement alone should secure her a place in the top 5, if not at number 1. Yet, ESPN conveniently overlooked her unparalleled individual statistics. Let's delve into the numbers they prefer to ignore.
Breanna Stewart, who's on this list, played at UConn with a bunch of other pros, a bunch of other WNBA players. Being a part of a stacked team at UConn or South Carolina and winning a national championship, is that more impressive than sticking with your little home school, not surrounded by great talent, and carrying them all the way to the brink of championships? What's more impressive?
Caitlin Clark holds the all-time scoring record in both men's and women's college basketball, solidifying her status as one of the greatest players of all time. However, her influence goes beyond scoring. She is a remarkable playmaker who consistently ranks high in assists, enhancing the performance of her teammates. In essence, she didn't just accumulate points, she improved her entire team's game.
Breanna Stewart won a lot of championships, no question. Did she squad up with a bunch of future WNBA players? Obviously.
Her accolades are a testament to her greatness. She's a 2-time AP Player of the Year, a 3-time All-American, a 2-time Naismith Player of the Year, and a 2-time Wooden Award winner. In nearly every category that defines an all-time great, Clark ranks near the top. Now, let's compare her achievements to those players ESPN rated above her. While they are undoubtedly legendary, did any of them revolutionize the sport as Clark has? Her records remain unbeaten, her offensive skill set is unmatched, and her influence on the game transcends the typical metrics of stardom.
There have always been the dominant teams. There's UConn, there is South Carolina. I think that the fact that Caitlin Clark started on a team that did not have mind-blowing talent existing and brought that team to a championship really says something about you as a player. And when you are ranking players, you are ranking them as an individual unit rather than a...
One of ESPN's major oversights is failing to recognize that Clark achieved more with less. Unlike players such as Breanna Stewart, Cheryl Miller, and Maya Moore, who were supported by teams brimming with All-Americans and future WNBA stars, Clark faced different challenges. Iowa was not a powerhouse program during her time. She didn't step into a championship-ready team. She constructed one through her skill and determination.
A lot of times, you as an individual can really raise that team up and bring them to a championship. Breanna Stewart, who was ranked number 1 in the top college basketball players of all time, but if she would have been on an Iowa team, would she have been able to win that championship also?
Take Breanna Stewart at UConn as a prime example. She had the advantage of playing alongside several elite players, benefited from Hall of Fame coaching, and was part of a dominant dynasty where winning titles was expected. Now, envision if Clark had been part of that system while Stewart played for Iowa. Would Stewart have led that roster to consecutive national championship games as Clark did? Highly unlikely. The same can be said for Cheryl Miller, who thrived at USC with future Hall of Famers by her side. In contrast, Clark was the driving force behind Iowa's competitive edge. Her leadership, vision, and ability to elevate those around her transformed a mid-tier program into a perennial contender. This profound impact on her team's success should hold greater weight than simply counting trophies, emphasizing the significance of influence over accolades.
And their ranking is that Breanna Stewart is the #1 best college basketball player of all time. The #2 best basketball player is Candace Parker. And then they have Diana Taurasi. And then they have Maya Moore. And then in that 5th slot, they slot in Cheryl Miller.
Clark's greatness extends beyond her on-court achievements. It lies in how she transformed the sport itself, a fact that ESPN has conveniently overlooked. Prior to her influence, women's college basketball struggled to achieve record viewership, but she reversed that trend. Clark drew fans to arenas, boosted TV ratings to unprecedented heights, and dramatically increased merchandise sales. No other player in ESPN's rankings has matched her impact on the game. She didn't just dominate statistically, she brought women's basketball into the spotlight. Even ESPN analysts acknowledged her unparalleled influence, yet they still excluded her from their rankings, highlighting their flawed reasoning.
Most points by a point guard in a season in WNBA history. Most double-doubles by a rookie guard in WNBA history. Most points by a rookie in WNBA history. Most assists by a rookie in the history of the WNBA. First WNBA rookie to record 2 triple-doubles. First triple-double by a rookie in WNBA history. First triple-double in Fever history. The first player to be named WNBA Player of the Month and Rookie of the Month in the same month. First player in WNBA history with 20 or more points, 15 or more assists, and 5 or more rebounds in a game. She won Rookie of the Month 4 times. Eastern Conference Player of the Week 3 times, single season rookie record for assists, single season rookie record for 3-pointers, single game record for assists, 19.
This highlights a larger issue: ESPN's evident bias. If Clark were any other player, there's no doubt she would receive different treatment. The network has consistently pushed narratives that minimize her accomplishments while elevating their favored stars. This situation isn't merely about one ranking. It reflects a troubling pattern of disrespect that's hard to overlook. ESPN justified excluding Clark by claiming she didn't win a championship. However, as we've noted, they have celebrated numerous all-time legends like Pete Maravich, Oscar Robertson, and Larry Bird, even though none secured a college title. Yet, when it comes to Clark, the standards shift dramatically, revealing a double standard in how achievements are evaluated.
Franchise record for most double-doubles, 3-pointers, career 10 or more assists in a game. Franchise record for most career 10 or more assists in a game. Fastest WNBA player to reach 100 3-pointers. She did it in 34 games. Most assists by a rookie in a WNBA All-Star game, for which she received the most fan votes ever, 700,000 of those. Fastest player to reach 350 points and 150 assists to start a season, regardless of years in the league. People will say, pay more attention to the other folks. Like, she couldn't do it herself. You know, LeBron has teammates, Jordan had teammates. I understand.
This bias is not only evident in rankings, but also in how ESPN covers Clark compared to other players. They consistently hype athletes like Angel Reese, Aja Wilson, and South Carolina's dominant program. Yet, when Clark achieves something historic, ESPN finds ways to downplay her accomplishments. For instance, when she set new records, the network barely acknowledged them. Similarly, as she led Iowa to back-to-back national championship games, they shifted focus to the teams that defeated her instead of celebrating her journey. The double standard becomes even more pronounced during controversies. When Angel Reese taunted Clark in the national championship game, ESPN rushed to defend Reese by labeling it as competitive spirit. Conversely, when Clark exhibited similar energy on the court, she was criticized as being cocky or disrespectful. The inconsistency is glaring. This pattern doesn't only apply to Reese, it affects the entire narrative surrounding Clark. When another player triumphs, ESPN spins it as a victory against adversity, while Clark's successes are either ignored or undermined, revealing a troubling disparity in coverage.
Association, they gave us a gym that I paid for. Not entirely, but they took money out of my check and I paid for it.
You better get the full usage of that.
Man, I got hot tub, cold tub, weight room, full court basketball, Ron. I walk in today, I'm on one side working out, Caitlin Clark on the other side.
Really?
I look at myself, there you go too, Patty.
ESPN has dedicated more time to covering WNBA players who criticize Clark than to celebrating her achievements. They persistently promote the notion that she's overrated, despite overwhelming statistical and financial evidence to the contrary. It's clear that ESPN has an agenda regarding Caitlin Clark, and with each attempt to downplay her, they only succeed in appearing increasingly unreasonable.
You know I say what's up, but I'm not the type to say what's up to interrupt your workout because I don't like people to interrupt mine. She can shoot the shit out of it.
And the WNBA assist leader this past year.
She can shoot the shit out the ball.
She's a great shooter.
And she's one of those workout people, got to think, anytime I hit the court, I got to hit that bike. I'm older now, so I got to get on that bike and stroll for a couple 5, 6, 7 minutes. So while I'm strolling through the park, I'm looking at her shoot it. And she's one of those shooters where if you know as a gym rat, you guys know, like, damn, bro, why you throw that pass bad? Give me the ball in my chest. I'm like, oh, she's a gangster also.
She's lighting people up.
Throw me the ball the way I want it.
What drill was it? What drill was she running?
I don't know. She was doing a 2 in a row corner wing. And if you miss, you have to go back to the next spot. And if you missed again, you have to go back to the starting spot. She had a nice drill. I'm literally still in it.
That's nice.
And she was shooting the shit out of it.
Of course she was.
Right. So she was shooting the shit out of it. And
she's the face of the league.
Agreed.
She's the face of the league. Agreed.
Caitlin Clark has emerged as the biggest superstar in women's basketball history, and ESPN recognizes her immense impact on the sport. Her influence is evident in record-breaking attendance numbers and skyrocketing TV ratings for women's college basketball. She's the catalyst for the WNBA finally capturing mainstream attention. However, ESPN struggles to properly acknowledge her because doing so would challenge the narrative they've cultivated over the years. The network has traditionally placed a spotlight on certain athletes, investing heavily in promoting their chosen stars. Yet Clark's meteoric rise has completely transformed the landscape, overshadowing those they've championed. Rather than embrace her accomplishments, ESPN tends to downplay her influence, omitting her from historical rankings and minimizing her game-changing impact. Acknowledging Caitlin Clark would require admitting that she has outshined the very players they have promoted for so long. This reluctance highlights an ongoing struggle within the sport, as her extraordinary talent and presence redefine women's basketball on a global scale.
What it do, peeps? Cheryl Swoops is been missing. Cheryl Swoops is MIA. They got a APB out for Cheryl Swoops. If you see Cheryl Swoops, she did a lot of talking a few months ago about the Indiana Fever, the locker room environment, how people didn't want to play there, how people wanted to leave.
Fans are not deceived. They recognize Caitlin Clark's undeniable impact on women's basketball. ESPN may attempt to manipulate narratives to suit their agenda, but the truth remains clear. Clark has revolutionized the sport in ways no player has before. This raises a crucial question. If ESPN is willing to distort history now, what will it take for them to finally acknowledge Clark's true significance? Regardless of how the network adjusts rankings or spins stories, they cannot eliminate the reality of her greatness. Caitlin Clark isn't just another talented player. She's among the greatest ever to play the game. Her influence transcends mere statistics, as she has drawn millions of new fans into women's sports and elevated them to unprecedented heights. No amount of media bias or selective rankings can diminish her legacy. The recognition she deserves is long overdue, and it is time for ESPN to acknowledge her extraordinary contributions and impact on the game.
The Indiana Fever are that golden destination, and I can't help but laugh to the fans and the people online and the media commentators, unfortunately, who said that nobody wanted to play in Indiana. That doesn't make any sense.
ESPN's refusal to fully acknowledge Caitlin Clark highlights their own priorities. Rather than celebrating authentic greatness, they seem more focused on pushing specific narratives. They protect certain athletes while downplaying Clark's contributions. Despite her remarkable impact on the growth of women's basketball in recent history, however, what ESPN fails to grasp is that fans don't require their validation. Clark's legacy isn't dictated by manipulated rankings or selective commentary. It's grounded in her records, her influence, and the millions who support her. In the years to come, history will overlook ESPN's rankings and remember the undeniable truth of what Caitlin Clark has achieved. So let ESPN continue their attempts at rewriting history while Clark forges her own. The world is watching her remarkable journey unfold. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe. More videos are on screen now.